Gran Turismo 7 is still the #1 racing game on PlayStation. The game's gonna have been out for like 3 years now, and I did some maths, and apart from GT Sport, every other Gran Turismo game, including the prologue games, comes out around 3 to 4 years after the previous game, which means theoretically we should be looking at Gran Turismo 8 soon. And some of us at Overtake have put our heads together and we've come up with 13 things that need to be in the next Gran Turismo game. And with that, welcome back to Overtake. My name's Emily. I really like Gran Turismo. I used to race in the Gran Turismo World Series. I was in there in the World Finals in 2022 and 2020, representing Australia. Mikkel, by the way, also a presenter in Overtake, is also involved. He is the German language commentator for the World Series. So yeah, basically, Overtake, we kind of heart GT, I would say. However, there are some things that we want to see. The first one that we want to see in the next game is probably a bit out there in terms of Gran Turismo, but it concerns endurance racing, and that is driver swaps. In a lot of organized GT Online league racing and communities that do their own endurance races, they often have to set up like multiple races and multiple servers to simulate real life. So you'll have one driver do one race and then it'll end, and they'll set up a new server and they'll put a new driver in and they'll do the next race. It's very confusing, and there's no way to do proper real-life driver swaps like you see in iRacing or ACC, for example. Endurance team racing is one of the most fun things that I think you can do in sim racing, so I would love to see the GT community get to experience that. Wouldn't it be cool if one driver was driving in a race and the other driver was like in a spectator mode, and then you could click a button in a pit stop and it would like swap drivers? It'd be like B-Spec and A-Spec in like Gran Turismo 4. But yeah, hopefully they take advantage of the PlayStation 5 and finally give us proper driver swaps and endurance races on Gran Turismo. On the topic of team racing, I'd like to see this all also worked into the game in some way, with teams built into the game in general. Like you can create your own team and add friends, and you can all be in like a team in the game. It'd be cool if it was like iRacing, for example, which has this feature where you can like coordinate liveries, you can join races together and things like that. I'd also like to see more opportunities for people to run their own leagues. At the moment, there are some really well-run, player-run communities and competitions in Gran Turismo 7, but these people are forced to like set up lobbies in just the multiplayer mode, and it's quite restrictive with what options they can use. I'd love to see leagues being added into the game, and you could like join the league and the admins can like schedule servers that have like the correct kind of settings for the races that they want to run. I'd also like to see the broadcast overlays that we see on the World Tour available to these leagues as well. I honestly think this would bring up the production value for all the player-run leagues in Gran Turismo, and if these look great, I think it would help grow the Gran Turismo scene, which would help grow the pro level as well. My final suggestion in regards to like kind of endurance racing is multi-class racing into Gran Turismo. Gran Turismo has prototypes and Grand Touring cars. They're two of like the most popular categories that are raced, and most of these races in real life featuring these cars are multi-class. So I would love to see multi-class included, just so I can like drive a hypercar and like, you know, lap GT3s at high speed. I think it would be a lot of fun. Next up is an option to customize the heads-up display. So the current HUD was introduced in GT Sport, and it looks honestly great. I just think it's super iconic, but we basically have no way to adjust it to our liking. For years, the only way you could have a rear view mirror was if you were running the bumper cam. You don't get the mirror in like bonnet or like chase cam or cockpit or whatever. The multifunction display is also in the middle of the screen in the bumper cam, but it's like off to the side in the other modes. And if you play it in VR, there's just stuff everywhere, like in the middle of the screen. So I would love the opportunity to be able to change where these kind of little boxes kind of sit on the screen. I'd like to change the size. The F1 games do this really well. There's got an option to change literally everything in the HUD. It's honestly like full on, it's probably too confusing in F1, and it gives me a crisis whenever I accidentally enter that screen. But it does give you lots of options. Another feature that should be included in the next Gran Turismo is an option to change the field of view. The field of view is currently locked, and it would be great to adjust that, because a lot of people play GT on a couch, sitting like ages away from the screen on a controller, whilst like, for example, I play it like the screen's like right here. It's like right next to my face. So I don't think the FOV in GT7 is bad, but I'd love to be able to adjust it. The ACC options for adjusting this are great and super simple, so something like that would be awesome. Of course, we cannot do a list of things we want to see in a Gran Turismo game without talking about cars. There will always be a list of cars that people want. GT people are very, very vocal on the internet, being like, I want this car and I want that car. And I think for me, I really want to focus on a particular set of cars that, well, it needs to be brought more up to date. If we look at Group 3 options, I kind of, in one way, I kind of love how quirky all the Group 3 options are in GT7, but they are really out of date. For example, the Ferrari GT3 car is like a 458 Italia, which is like 2 generations old now. They're currently racing the 296 GT3. BMW is the same. They're running the M4. Instead of that, in Gran Turismo 7, you're running like the M6. The Group 3 Corvette is based on an old C7, which didn't even have a GT3 model. The Porsche is based on the RSR, like the GTE car, and GT is like a dead category now, so it's not even a GT3. Along with the Group 3 cars that are heavily outdated, the Super GT cars in Group 2 are like kind of out of date as well. You have the Honda NSX, the Nissan GTR, the Lexus RCF, but in the modern day, they're racing like a Civic, a Z, and like a GR Supra. So those are kind of out of date. Also, the Group 1 cars, in Gran Turismo 7, they're mostly LMP1 cars. There is one hypercar that's included, but LMP1's dead. It's been replaced by hypercar, and I would love to see a lot more hypercars in the game. Also, with the LMP1s and the hypercars, I'd love to see some option to actually adjust the hybrid and the battery settings. The hybrid system is it's completely busted, I think it's fair to say. It automatically deploys on throttle at a certain speed, and you just cannot turn it off. It's on whether you want it to or not. It means that some cars like the Audi R18 drop all their battery in one lap. You'll just like burn through the whole battery, and then you basically have a flat battery for the rest of the race. You would do all sorts of weird stuff. I remember when I was like trying to like no life Gran Turismo and get really good, I was like riding the brake at the end of straights to like save battery and stuff. Like you do all sorts of weird things, and this would just be fixed if there was like a tab in the MFD that you can like choose between like, you know, a bunch of deployment modes. You could like choose charge, which has like no deployment. You could balanced, and then you could have like attack mode. You could even like an overtake button as well. There's a lot of ways they can do this. This isn't technically how the hypercars work in real life. They're a little bit, they're quite different to that, but I think it's a lot closer than what we currently have in GT7. I think it would be a lot of fun to race, and I think it's worth simulating. There are more and more hybrid cars that are being raced these days, and electric cars, so this is worth simulating, I think. We got talking about cars, but let's quickly talk about tracks as well. So Gran Turismo is a Japanese game, and they have a lot of Japanese tracks. We have like Suzuka, Autopolis, Tsukuba, Fuji, but there are some tracks that are missing, especially since Gran Turismo is like partnered with Super GT. Okayama isn't there, Sugo isn't there, Motegi isn't there, even though it's been in previous games. Plus there is the new Magarigawa Club private racing resort, and that opened like in 2023, and people say it looks like it was ripped from a Gran Turismo game. It's got like crazy dramatic like elevation change, and honestly it's sort of like the Ascari circuit from GT6. I'd love to see that in the GT8, and there's a bunch of other real world tracks that were in previous titles that aren't in the current game. We've got Monaco, there's Indianapolis, Silverstone was in GT6, also in GT6 was like the Goodwood Hill Climb. We have the Goodwood Circuit now, but not the hill climb, which is kind of strange. On the topic of hill climbs, like Polyphony still sponsors Pikes Peak, and they may or may not hold the exclusive license for the event. I can't really tell. And it's been a rumor for like ever that they're going to include Pikes Peak. I don't know if they're going to do it. Who knows? But I would love to see it in the next game. My other suggestion for GT8 is to include a lot of legacy Gran Turismo tracks. Midfield Raceway, Special Stage, Red Rock, Valley, they're all amazing circuits. And I'd love to see all the old tracks in the new game. Even for the modern tracks like Trial Mountain and Grand Valley that have been like upgraded to a modern spec, I would love to see their old school legacy versions included, and you could like select them as well. Another idea is some free roam tracks. People love cruising in Gran Turismo. There's so many servers that are up with people just like playing cops and robbers and doing all sorts of stuff, just cruising around Tokyo Expressway. And a lot of racing games have moved away from just circuits. We have Forza Horizon that's super popular. Even sims like AC Evo apparently are going to have free roam elements in that game. So I don't know how it would look in Gran Turismo. Gran Turismo has never really done that, but how cool would it be to like cruise some highways with some friends? You could like combine all the Tokyo Expressways together. Be a lot of fun. Circling back to online racing, and sport mode was introduced in GT Sport, and with it, daily races gave players the option to race like 3 different combos each week on like a regular basis. And this is like fairly similar to what we see in like iRacing and LFM, but unlike iRacing where you have like 9,000 options of series, in Gran Turismo you only have like 3 daily races, and you could argue that means that kind of players are being funneled into the same races, so it means that the level of skill is a lot kind of more similar than in iRacing. Not really having many options and not really having any long races just feels kind of lackluster. Having more options cannot hurt, honestly. If anything, something closer to Le Mans Ultimate would be awesome, with some short races happening every 15 minutes or so, plus a longer race every few hours than maybe like a full-on endurance race once a week. I think the GT World Series races are really good in Gran Turismo 7. I'd like to see them continue, but the daily races, they can get a big overhaul. Another request to Polyphony for Gran Turismo 8, and this is actually incredibly selfish and just personal to me, but if you could put me in the game like a few more times, that would be great. I'm in like 3 events, but like I could be in more. I will happily talk about the Gran Turismo movie and how it's based on a true story again, if you want. The final thing that I'm going to request for GT8 is for the game to be on PC. So I think this is going to be quite unlikely for a couple of reasons, mostly related to Sony and selling PlayStations, because I think Gran Turismo sells a lot of PlayStations. But it is worth shouting out. Every time I stream Gran Turismo, I always get so many comments being like, I would love to play this game, but I only have PC. When's this game coming to PC? So there's obviously a huge amount of people that want to play it on PC, so maybe they should port it to PC. Maybe they should release the next game on PC, open Gran Turismo up to a brand new audience. What do you think though? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments about what you want to see out of the next Gran Turismo. Hopefully they do make another Gran Turismo. They just made my first Gran Turismo, it was pretty cute. I enjoyed playing it. But yeah, hopefully we see another game very soon. Let me know your thoughts. Otherwise, if you did enjoy the video, you can leave a like and you can subscribe to Overtake for more racing game and sim racing videos. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.